I was looking at this, and this one thing kind of caught my eye. So Aaron. So this is Exodus and chapter 32, where Moses went up, and they made the golden calf while he was gone, getting the word of the Lord. Joshua was out with Moses, and everybody else was in the camp. And so I find it interesting because God had already, this is just a side thing, God had already told Aaron, hey, they made a calf down there. He said, they have made for themselves an image of a calf. So God already told Moses what happened. And then Moses comes down, and he saw the calf and the dancing. He became enraged and threw the tablets out of his hands and smashing them, at the base of the mountain. Then he took the calf they made, burned it up, and ground it into a powder. He scattered the powder over the surface of the water and forced the Israelites to drink the water. That's crazy. You drink this powdered gold calf that you... But anyway, so Aaron says to his brother Moses, don't be enraged, my lord. You yourself know that the people are... He said, what... So Moses said to Aaron, what did these people do to you that have led you into such a grave sin? And Aaron says, don't be enraged, my lord. Aaron replied, you yourself know that the people are intent on evil. They said to me, make us a god who will go before us, because this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. So I said to them, whoever has gold, take it off. And they gave it to me. And this is the part that was kind of surprising to me. And I'm sure I read it before, but it's like, you read it again and it's just crazy. He said, when I threw it into the fire, out came this calf. Right. So Aaron is saying, I just threw this gold in, and spontaneously this thing just calf appeared, which is not true, because I mean that's not true, right?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not true. What does it say? He said, and Aaron replied, take off your gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people took off their rings. He took the gold from their hands, fashioned it. So it says he fashioned it with an engraving tool and made it to the image of the calf. So he's saying, but it just came out in this calf.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I don't know why Aaron would say that, but I think he was afraid, and he just was he was just disappointed, not only in the people, but in himself. So he just came up with an excuse.
Moses, okay, so first the people said to Aaron, because this Moses, the man who brought us from the land of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him. He's like, they're up on the mountain, we don't know what's happened. But then, literally a paragraph later, so this is Exodus 32, verse 4, then they said, so then Aaron makes the golden calf, and he says, Israel, this is your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So, that's so...
Yeah, he just went from one extreme to the next.
So we don't know where he went, the one who brought us. Okay, so we're going to make a new God and say, okay, this is the one who brought us, even though we just said we know that it's God and Moses is God, but okay.
And then here he says, well, when Moses went up on the mountain, he didn't come down for I think it was 40 days or 40 nights, whatever. Right. And at that point, they just started thinking, well, he missed a diet up there or something.
Right.
They'd already witnessed God descending on Mount Sinai, the fire, all the smoke, and, they already witnessed this. And then Moses goes up there and leaves, and they thought, well, maybe he just died and had a heart attack up there or something, or maybe God got mad at him or something. So they just went off on the deep end.
It's just such an interesting thing because first, when so they were partying, they had a festival to this calf, God told Moses they made a calf down there. So God's like, that's it, I'm done. And so Moses interceded for the people at that time. Okay, it says Moses, this is 32:11, but Moses interceded with the Lord and said, Lord, why does your anger burn against your people? You brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a strong hand. The Egyptians will say, oh, you just brought your people out there to kill them. Yep. So this is not a good look, he says to God, right? But then later, when Moses comes down, it's almost reversed where God is like, slow your roll, Moses, because Moses is like, whoever. And Moses said to God, oh, these people have committed a grave sin. Now they have made God a gold for themselves. Now, if you would only forgive their sin, but if not, erase me from the book, you have written.
Yeah.
And Jesus and
And
God.
I'm not mistaken, that's the book of life.
Yeah.
That's the book of life.
And Lord replied to Moses, he says, God says, I will erase who has sinned against me from my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I told you about. See, my angel will go before you. But on that day, I will settle accounts. I will hold them accountable for their sin. The Lord inflicted a plague on the people for what they had done the calf. So 3,000 died.
From the plague?
Other people got a plague. No, the Levites had to kill him.
They killed him. They killed him. He said, I think it's whoever is on the side of the Lord.
Yeah.
Take up, and we're gonna kill them.
It says, all whoever is for the Lord, come to me. And all the Levites came. And then he sent the Levites to kill the people. And he was like, well, since you did that, then you're good. But I mean, what about Aaron? He's a Levite, I guess. So
he was a Levite.
He was.
There's some commentary on this, on how the Israelites were able to switch up, go from Yahweh, the worship of Yahweh, to immediately asking for a golden calf. First of all, they were used to. The Israelites had been exposed to idolatry for 400 years. So they were there in Egypt. They had multiple gods there, and they were exposed to all that. So idolatry wasn't too far from what they were used to. You can kind of look at Moses, how Moses, when he went there and told him about Yahweh sent me to deliver you, and they were like, who's Yahweh? They don't even know who he was. Who's Yahweh? So they were being exposed to idolatry. And then there's other ideas about how the people who came up out of Egypt was not just not ideas, but there was a mixed multitude that came up out of Egypt. There was Israelites, there were Hebrews, and there were other people who came along with them that were left out of Egypt with them.
Really? Like Egyptians?
Egyptians and other groups that were not naturally born Israelites, or whatever, but left up out of there. And so some of them say that's why it was so easy, because there was a mixed multitude there at the Mount Sinai. That's why they were so quick to go back to idolatry.
That makes sense, but I had not heard that. I don't know, but I was just trying to think of like something in today's where we say, look, I just did this thing, and then this bad thing came out of it. Like we try to be hands off on it.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I was trying to think of something in my own life or what we do today as a culture that's like, where we're thinking we're trying to somehow be innocent in this guilty scenario. You know what I mean?
Find a way to say, well, it wasn't my fault, or someone made me do that, or whatever. And so we all of a lot of the stuff that we see there. A lot of stuff we see in the Old Testament and the New Testament, but especially the Old Testament, is that a lot of that I think most human beings can relate to. It's human behavior.
In the Old Testament?
In the Old Testament, it's human behavior. It is. It's just them. Not only that, but how every time the Israelites, every time they ran up against some opposition or whatever, their first thing they thought was, let's return back to Egypt. Let's go back to Egypt. Right. And a lot of us do the same thing. We do that. We get in trouble. We go back to our old ways. A lot of us do that. So one thing I noticed about it also is that human nature hasn't changed. It has not changed. Human nature doesn't change.
I noticed I kind of do it in my own like scheduling and planning, and sometimes what happens is I don't actually get done what I set out to do because I'm like, well, I'll do it, and you probably know this about me because you've been with me for a while, but since we've been married or whatever, but I'll say I'm going to do something, but I have in my mind like, unless these 3 or 4 things happen, then I have to change direction or whatever. Yeah. So I think and maybe sometimes that's me flowing in the spirit, but maybe that's sometimes me making excuses, I don't know. It looks the same from the outside.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
I don't know.
What else stands out to you?
I mean, that was kind of most of what I read that stood out to me. I did notice though Moses, because we don't really know what happened where Moses why Moses didn't get to go to the promised land, but I did see like clearly he has anger. I don't think God, it sounds like a punishment God would do, saying grind that into a powder and throw it in the water and drink it. Like that sounds like God to me, but I just think it's interesting that I doesn't see it say anywhere that God told Moses to do that.
Right, and I think that could, but I am speculating. I am not completely sure exactly what got him. Moses not allowed to go to the promised land. I'm not sure.
Right? No.
I mean, at first glance, I looked at it and said, "Wow, that was pretty harsh." Like Moses he's doing the best he can here, and but God has his reasons why he does things. I'm not sure why he did that, but
maybe it's somehow the anger. He was like annoyed. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's where God, because in this thing, it's like Moses has compassion. God has compassion. Moses has compassion. God has compassion. So maybe in the other context, Moses was supposed to have God's compassion, and he didn't have it at that moment.
I look at also Moses as a prime example of an intercessor. I mean, Moses was there, and the ultimate intercessor is Jesus, but Moses was a type of Jesus in the Old Testament.
Right.
Like he was the intercessor. He went before God and pleaded for the people, even when the people are utterly guilty of sin, utterly guilty. He pleaded for the people. So in a way, I mean, not only that, but it's like I know Aaron was a priest, but it's in a way Moses was operating as a priest,
right?
An intercessor, yeah. And he was pleading, so. He's like he was a type of Jesus in the Old Testament, definitely. So.
Well, my thing is too. My thought was too today is like, and I've thought this before. God never. I mean, he knew Moses was going to come, or he knew Aaron was going to come, and that Moses would want Aaron. Yeah. But it was Moses' idea to have Aaron there. Yeah. So if Aaron wouldn't have been there, maybe this whole thing wouldn't have necessarily went down.
Yeah. God knows things, and God knows stuff. God said, he wanted Moses to go. He said, "Well, I'm not good enough. Bring Aaron."
Right.
God still allowed Aaron, but Aaron had some character things.
And Aaron's sons kind of messed stuff up.
Aaron's sons messed up. So God knew what he was doing. His first thing was, "Nope, Moses, you're gonna go and you're gonna speak to the people." And then he said no, and God knew. I think God knew what he was doing when he said, "No, I want you to go." Nevertheless, because of your lack of faith, I'll let you have your brother.
Because God's like, well, I mean, I can make anything work, but I'm just saying, like,
He told him, I created the ear, I created the mouth. I mean, what do you mean you can't speak? I will give you with that. I created all this stuff. But so.
It makes me think of how in a war God said you have to kill everybody, and the women and the children, because those pagan or whatever those rituals that they do that could corrupt God's people, right? Yeah. So that's why God reminds me of because we're like, why do we gotta kill all the livestock? Or oh, this basketball is like a good background. Anyway, why do we gotta kill all the livestock and the women and the children? But they creep it, you know what I mean? And that's
they pass it on. I mean, and that's very controversial today. And I'm not advocating that at all. That was a different time. That was God and his people. But yeah, I mean, people grow up in certain homes and stuff, or they grow up in that environment of paganism and all that, and they teach it to the children. They teach them that, and then they just pass it on from one generation to the next. So God was like, no, I need you to, and I don't want my people to be influenced by that. So yeah, it was definitely. I wouldn't advocate that today. That was horrible.
Right.
Yeah, God had his reasons. So.
And it was a different time.
Yeah, it's a different time.
We don't go around fighting wars in the land by ourselves.
We don't do any of that.
But we do need to sometimes clean out our house from things that are not of God. Clean out what we're watching or what we're listening to.
Well, not you talking about the golden calf, but how many idols do we have? That was an idol, but how many idols do we have in our lives? Or even our culture. We might not have we might not have a statue or whatever of gold that we bow down to, but we have our idols in our lives too. Right here in modern society, we have idols. And like you said, clean out. Sometimes we have to recognize that, this is an idol. This is an idol in my life. And sometimes we have to clean house. Got to get